Oversight Committee. So Congressman Khanna, nice to see you, sir. Welcome.
Thank you, Brooke. Thanks for having me on.
I want to get to all things impeachment just a second, but I want to start with freshman Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene and quite honestly how she still has a job. For people who are catching up, let me just fill everyone in. So our K-File here at CNN did some digging and found out that Marjorie Taylor Greene reportedly indicated support for executing prominent Democrats prior to being elected. So in one post, she hit the like button on a comment that a, quote, bullet to the head would be quicker to remove House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. In other posts, she liked comments about executing FBI agents who she believed were part of the deep state working against Trump. And Congressman Khanna, she once called the Parkland shooting a false flag operation. And now we're learning today she has a new committee assignment. She's joining the Education and Labor Committee. And now we're hearing from Axios that Kevin McCarthy plans to have a conversation with her. Congressman Khanna, a conversation? What do you think needs to happen?
I mean, it's shocking. It reminds me of the Mark Twain quote that there's only one distinctly criminal class, and that's the United States Congress. I mean, you couldn't get away with this in any other workplace. She actually has tweets talking about the assassination of President Obama, of Hillary Clinton. She's threatened people. I'm all for free speech, Brooke. I'm for defending someone's right to speech, even if they're crazy conspiracy theories. But where I draw the line is violence. You should not be allowed to have a job or be in the United States Congress if you're actually encouraging people to engage in violence.
Well, how about, I mean, we were thinking back to, Steve King and all of the racist things that he said, and you recall that he was stripped of his committee assignments. Like, what tangible thing should happen to her?
This is much worse. I mean, I think she should be removed from the House. At the very least,
removed
she should be removed from the committees. Yeah, I mean, look, Steve King was bad, and it was white nationalism and racism, and it was appropriate to remove him from the committees. But he didn't threaten violence. He didn't threaten assassination. I mean, we have to understand what's going on here. I mean, this is a person in their 40s, not in their youth, who are threatening killing people.
I hear you. But okay, so you are one member, and I appreciate you saying that, but what about Speaker Pelosi? She is the Speaker of the U.S. House. Is she planning on pressuring Kevin McCarthy? Are you and other members planning on, saying something to Speaker Pelosi to pressure Kevin McCarthy to do something?
Yes, I think we need to have a caucus meeting on this and have a formal request of Kevin McCarthy that at the very least she shouldn't be on the committees. I mean, how can you explain her being on the Education Committee, which is responsible for educating American youth, when she doesn't believe in sort of peaceful dialogue and is resorting to violence? So absolutely, this should be something that the Speaker and the entire House Democratic Caucus take up.
It's also not just, Congressman, it's not just Marjorie Taylor Greene, with these QAnon views. You have state reps who are these Republicans. You have Arizona censuring former Senator Jeff Flake, Cindy McCain, Governor Doug Ducey. The Oregon Republican Party is falsely calling the insurrection a false flag. I am sure, Congressman Khanna, that you are talking to your Republican colleagues off the record about their party, but I want to know what you're hearing, behind these closed doors and the whispers about what they think the future of the GOP, where they think it's headed.
Well, I have a good relationship with a number of Republicans. I mean, I worked with Matt Gaetz to try to end the Yemen war, but there was not craziness. I mean, this is craziness where you're talking about killing people.
But are they acknowledging the crazy?
Some are, but there's a culture of fear because the reality is that there's a Republican base that elects people in the primary, and people are very reluctant to say something that's going to get them in crosshairs with that base. I thought after Trump, after the attack on the Capitol, where the person who was most threatened was Vice President Pence, you'd have a different outcome. But we saw the results yesterday. I mean, there were only 5 senators who even were willing, on the Republican side, who were even willing to have a trial.
And now we're hearing Kevin McCarthy is traveling to Florida to see Donald Trump. Man, that was fast. What do you think of that?
Unbelievable. I mean, when it's just a matter of basic self-respect. I mean, Kevin McCarthy was under threat too. I don't understand why this is a partisan issue and why this isn't about standing up for American democracy and for the dignity of serving in a co-equal branch in the Capitol. The Capitol was attacked. And I don't understand. I mean, as a former president, it's amazing to me that he still has such a hold on the Republican Party. And really, it's really sad. It's sad to see what they've done to Liz Cheney, who I disagree with strongly. But Liz Cheney, for voting her conscience, is now being threatened by many members. I mean, she's facing primary challenges. Her leadership is being threatened.
Right, but
so
that's the point. You look at what's happening to a Liz Cheney versus a Marjorie Taylor Greene. Let me hit pause on our conversation, Congressman Khanna. I want to come back to you, but let's go up to Capitol Hill to our chief congressional correspondent Manu Raju on all things impeachment. You know, we led the segment talking about the 5 Republican senators breaking from their party. What are you hearing? Is basically the Trump acquittal a fait accompli?
Yeah, it seems that way. I just talked to Senator John Cornyn and Senator John Thune, 2 members of the House, of the Senate Republican leadership, and both make very clear that the vote yesterday is indicative of where they believe this will end up, that nowhere near the 67 votes needed to convict Donald Trump. And they're not defending Donald Trump's actions, but they are pointing to this procedural concerns as a reason to vote to acquit him, contending that this is, in their view, not constitutional. Now, that is going to be a central part of the House Democratic manager's impeachment case when the arguments begin on February 9th, the argument being that it is certainly, in their view, constitutional to move forward with these proceedings. At least 5 Republicans on the Senate side believe that that is the case, but there are not the 17 that are needed. Now, at the same time, the Republicans are starting to line up very closely to Donald Trump. You mentioned Kevin McCarthy, the House Republican leader, down in South Florida, meeting with Donald Trump tomorrow. McCarthy himself has been all over the map on the issue of the president's involvement on January 6th, his incitement of this riot, initially saying that he bore responsibility completely for what happened, and then later saying that he did not provoke that crowd. And we have heard privately Donald Trump has been outraged when Kevin McCarthy said on the floor of the House. Some House Republicans, too, have been critical of McCarthy. Now McCarthy down in Florida plans to meet with Donald Trump. And I was part of an effort, or just indicating, Brooke, how the party has not moved on from Donald Trump. Many Republican leaders still view him as a key part of this party going forward. So despite what we're seeing, some Republicans breaking ranks in the Senate, overwhelming the numbers, including members of the leadership, still on Donald Trump's side, recognizing, in their view, they need him to be with them come 2022, Brooke.
Pure, raw politics at play. Manu, thank you so much. Congressman Khanna, I want to go back to you just to wrap it up on the point of impeachment. You know, these 45 Republican senators don't even think this impeachment trial is constitutional. What do you think about that?
It's important to realize that the acts that the president did happened when he was president, and the House started to impeach. It was McConnell, Senate Majority Leader at the time, McConnell, who refused to start the trial. So you can't have it both ways. You can't, on the one hand, say, we're not going to start the trial when he's president. Let's do it. Let's delay it. And then after it's delayed, then say, no, now it's too late. It's hypocrisy. It would be different if we started the impeachment hearings after he left the office. That's not the facts of this case.
Congressman Ro Khanna, thank you, sir, very much.